When President Donald Trump returned to the White House in 2025, a new chapter of trade uncertainty began. With surprising speed, his administration launched a tariff war that sent shockwaves across the border. Suddenly, core Canadian industries like steel and aluminum faced massive duties. The goal of these tariffs, we were told, was to protect American jobs. But for countless Canadians, it felt like an attack on our economy and our long-standing friendship with the United States. Many worried this trade dispute would cripple our factories and harm our workers, creating a sense of deep unease from coast to coast. The initial impact was felt almost immediately. Businesses that relied on cross-border supply chains scrambled to understand the new rules. The threat of a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum created chaos. It wasn't just big corporations feeling the heat. Small businesses that made parts for cars or construction materials were also caught in the crossfire. These tariffs were not just numbers on a page. They represented real threats to livelihoods, to communities built around these industries, and to the very stability of our economic partnership with our closest ally. The future looked uncertain, and a sense of anxiety spread throughout the nation. Yet, in the face of this economic storm, Canada did not panic. Instead of reacting with anger or fear, our leaders chose a different path. They took a deep breath and began to formulate a plan. The feeling in Ottawa and across the provincial capitals was one of quiet resolve. The government understood that a rash response would only make things worse. This was a time for careful thinking and strategic action. It was a test of our national character, a moment that called for patience and a steady hand. The world was watching to see how Canada would handle this immense pressure. This calm approach set the stage for everything that followed. It allowed for a period of intense consultation and planning. Government officials began reaching out to industry leaders, union representatives, and economic experts. The message was clear. We are all in this together. This was not a problem for the government to solve alone. It was a national challenge that required a national response. This deliberate and thoughtful beginning was crucial. It laid the foundation for a unified strategy that would ultimately turn a dangerous crisis into a remarkable opportunity for the entire country to grow stronger. In response to the escalating trade dispute, something special began to take shape. It was called the Team Canada approach. This wasn't just a political slogan. It was a genuine movement that brought together different parts of our society. Federal and provincial leaders who often disagree stood shoulder to shoulder. Business executives who compete in the marketplace joined forces for the common good, and labor unions, dedicated to protecting workers, added their powerful voice to the chorus. It was a remarkable display of national unity, a powerful signal that Canada would face this challenge as one. The core idea behind Team Canada was simple but powerful. Collaboration is our greatest strength. Prime Minister Mark Carney and his cabinet held countless meetings, not just with politicians, but with the people on the front lines of the economy. They listened to the concerns of steel workers in Hamilton, auto parts manufacturers in Windsor, and aluminum producers in Quebec. This open dialogue ensured that the government's strategy was grounded in the real-world experiences of Canadian businesses and workers. It created a sense of shared purpose and collective responsibility that was felt across the country. This united front extended beyond our borders. Canadian diplomats, trade envoys, and business leaders fanned out across the United States. They didn't just talk to officials in Washington, D.C., they met with state governors, members of Congress, and American business owners. Their message was consistent and clear. Our economies are deeply connected, and these tariffs will hurt American consumers and workers just as much as Canadians. This diplomatic push was relentless and highly coordinated, aiming to build alliances and remind our American friends of our shared interests and long history of partnership. The Team Canada spirit fostered a sense of resilience at home. It gave people confidence that we could weather this storm. When workers saw their union leaders standing with company presidents and the Prime Minister, it sent a powerful message of solidarity. It showed that this was not about politics or profits, but about protecting our national interest. This unity was our shield. It allowed Canada to negotiate from a position of strength and to implement a strategy that was both firm and intelligent, proving that we could stand up for ourselves without losing our composure. Canada's response was not just about unity, it was also about being smart. Instead of hitting back blindly, the government carefully selected which US goods would face retaliatory tariffs. These were not random choices. The list, which included items like oranges from Florida, motorcycles, and clothing, was designed to put political pressure on key areas in the United States. The goal was to make American consumers and businesses feel the cost of the trade war. This strategy showed that Canada could and would defend itself, but it would do so in a calculated way that maximized its impact. While applying pressure, Canada also kept the lines of communication open. Diplomacy never stopped. Behind the scenes, negotiators worked tirelessly to find a solution. They used the framework of the USMCA to make their case, reminding their American counterparts of the existing trade rules. This dual approach of targeted retaliation and persistent diplomacy was a masterful balancing act. As recently as August 2025, we saw this strategy pay off when Canada dropped some of its tariffs to match US exemptions, a move praised by President Trump himself. It was a sign that our patient strategic approach was working. At the same time, Canada began to fundamentally rethink its reliance on the American market. The tariff crisis was a wake-up call. It showed the danger of putting too many of our economic eggs in one basket. The government launched major initiatives to invest in new future-focused industries like clean technology and advanced manufacturing. Programs were created to help retrain workers, giving them the skills needed for the jobs of tomorrow. This wasn't just about surviving the trade war. It was about building a more diverse and resilient economy for the long term. A key part of this strategy was looking for new friends and new markets. Canada aggressively pursued trade with other parts of the world. We strengthened our ties with the European Union through the CETA trade agreement. We also expanded our reach into the fast-growing economies of the Asia-Pacific region through the CPTPP. These efforts started to pay off as Canadian goods found new buyers around the globe. This deliberate pivot toward global trade diversification was one of the most important outcomes of the crisis, setting Canada on a path toward greater economic independence. The contrast between the Canadian and American experiences became increasingly clear. While Canada was busy building new trade partnerships and investing in future industries, American consumers were paying the price for the tariffs. The cost of many goods in the United States went up. From washing machines to building materials, the tariffs meant higher prices for families and businesses. The promise that a trade war would be easy to win was not matching the reality on the ground. American farmers were also hit hard when other countries, like China, retaliated by stopping purchases of US products. For Canada, what began as a grave threat slowly transformed into a nation-building opportunity. The crisis forced us to look inward and to ask tough questions about our economic future. It pushed us to innovate, to adapt, and to become more self-reliant. Canadian businesses that once focused solely on the US market began exploring opportunities in Europe, Asia, and beyond. This shift not only protected them from the tariff war, but also opened up new avenues for growth that will benefit our country for decades to come. The challenge made us stronger and more creative. Even as new US tariffs on goods like furniture and pharmaceuticals are set to begin in October 2025, Canada is in a much stronger position to handle them. We have learned valuable lessons. We have proven that our Team Canada approach works. We have built new trade relationships and invested in the skills of our workforce. While the trade relationship with the United States will always be our most important, we are no longer as dependent on it as we once were. We have diversified our economy and in doing so have gained a new measure of independence. Ultimately, this difficult period will be remembered as a defining moment for Canada in the 21st century. It was a time when we were tested and did not break. We responded to pressure with patience, unity, and a smart long-term plan. We turned a challenge into a catalyst for positive change, building a more robust, diversified, and resilient economy. The tariff storm was fierce, but Canada navigated it with a steady hand. We emerged from it not weakened, but with a renewed sense of confidence in our ability to forge our own path in a complex world.